Hello and welcome back to Prism & Company. My name is Colin and on the docket today, something new for you all. A deck duel, pitting two decks... Oh, did I have a fuzz on my finger? Anyway, pitting two decks against each other in Mortal Kombat. Will one deck leave in a bloody heap? Probably not. Decks don't have any blood in them. Will one deck leave battered and bruised? I hope not. I really don't want to damage my decks, but one, and only one, actually maybe two and sometimes zero, will be named victorious. Want to learn more? Stick around as we do the thing that I just said. The deck duel. Cue the intro. That's right, I'm back with a brand new series pitting two decks head to head, analyzing different aspects of them to see which will be victorious, in a series that I'm calling Deck Duel. Now, a couple of disclaimers for Deck Duel. This is totally my opinion. This is not saying that one deck is objectively better than the other one. This is saying that in my collection, for my tastes, deck A beats deck B, or maybe they'll tie, or maybe they'll both lose. Who knows? Anything can happen on Deck Duel. A third deck could careen in, and probably not that one. But I really don't mean to objectively say one deck is better than the next. I don't think there is a way to objectively say that, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. And if you disagree with my ratings or my opinions, please let me know. I would be so excited to hear what you think of these two decks. Now, let's meet our contenders. In this corner, weighing in at 340 GSM, the original champ, the 54-card knockout, the Gnostic Caustic, you know him, you love him, the Supra Oracle. And in this corner, weighing in at a 340 GSM with a whopping 84 cards, the periodically permanent, the elementary eliminator, the deck that'll take you back to school, Materia Prima. That's right, we got double UUSI on the menu. Now, what will determine the winner? Each deck will go head-to-head in three unique categories to earn what we lovingly call the juice. What is the juice, you ask? It's that extra special something that makes a deck as satisfying to shuffle as a crisp sip of strawberry summer shandy. Each deck will have a chance to earn a point in each of three categories. At the end of 3 rounds, the deck with the most points wins. Now, I want to see a fair fight. That means no bending corners, no shots to the tuck box, and no divination to predict the outcome of the fight. All right, time for round 1, variety. First up, the Supra Oracle. Now, variety can be both a good and a bad thing, so I'll be taking a look at both elements for both decks. Let's talk about the variety that isn't exactly as good with the Supra Oracle first. I'm going to start with 2 different categories. The first one would be the element cards: fire, ether, air, earth, and water. Now, is everything completely the same in these cards? No. Is a lot of it pretty darn similar? Absolutely yes. I do think it's notable that there are some interesting details. Each are slightly different on the bottom of these cards. These cards are kind of floating in space with some pretty darn different elements than the other ones. So it's not totally the same. You'd be pretty hard-pressed to say that these offer an insane amount of variety, though. Now, the other ones that are bound to come to mind if you're familiar with the Supra would be these probably have a name, but I don't remember the name for them. They are thinking, feeling, sensation, and intuition. These are cool cards that form a labyrinth if you put them together like this, not like that, like this, which I'm sure you've seen. But at the end of the day, they're pretty darn similar. You can see each of them has the same labyrinth, just in an individual corner. Now, they are all hand-drawn and have their own beautiful intricacies and details. It doesn't lend a ton to the variety, though. And while each of these do feature different hands with different fabric lovingly draped on a black fabric background, they're all also 2 hands with lovingly crafted fabric draped across a black background. You can see where I'm getting here. There's not a ton of variety between them. But there is a lot of incredible variety with the Supra as well. We'll lay out a few different cards here, and as I do, you can see each of these has a really distinct feel to it. Every card very immediately recognizable by its image. Even some of the cards having some color additions, which make them even more varied and cool. I think this is a big boon for variety. Having images that are not only distinguished from one another, but also, bam, instantly recognizable. Things like Damon, for example, often come to mind with this deck. I think this is one of the coolest cards. It's just really, really neat. This kind of little beastie pouring water onto these chained hands. It's mysterious, it's cool, it's a little bit foreboding. And every single time I think of Damon, I also think of this image. Speaking of, this deck has very recognizable keywords. Am I in love with every single keyword? No, absolutely not. But they do make it very easy to kind of pick and choose the cards out of the deck and remember, okay, everydayness is the bird on the fence. Myth is these beautiful hands carving this stone circle. I think all of that lends itself very well to variety. Onto the materia prima, there are two cards that are always in my head as almost identical. Yes, there is a figure hidden behind these spheres. There is a figure sort of posing majestically behind those. But if you were to put these cards next to each other without the names, no way could I tell you which one was which. That's only two cards, and two cards do not a very unvaried deck make. However, this deck suffers from a problem I would call the ladies draped in fabric problem. What do I mean by that? Well, allow me to put out a whole bunch of cards featuring, you guessed it, ladies draped in fabric. Are they in different positions? Absolutely. Is it different kinds of fabric between each one? Probably not. The thing that really gets me, though, is especially when you cover up the names like this, if you gave me $100,000, I could not tell you which one of these is which. The only exception maybe would be Mercury, just because I happen to think that that's a pretty specific kind of pose that makes the image a lot more recognizable. But there are tons and tons of these ladies with fabric and balls in this deck, and it really, as you're flipping through, kind of takes away from some of the variety. Now, that being said, there are plenty of cards that offer a ton of cool variety in this deck. We're talking about figures in very unique poses, like Xenon being inside of a sphere here. We have Cobalt riding in on a shell. We've got Tungsten, the pepperoni. We've got osmium, there's the one. Helium floating around. Magnesium in all of its fuzzy glory. Some of these cards with black backgrounds are just absolutely killer. Barium with its cool kind of like antiquity style looking head. We've got crazy hairdos. We've got different body kind of shapes and configurations. Arsenic with its skull head in the cage. You can see there's some really cool and varied stuff. Not to mention beautiful gold foiling on some of the cards. Ooh, it really does add to the variety and the excitement of this deck though. But only one can win. So who gets the juice for variety? For my money, I'm going to say the Supra. The Supra brings not only a variety of images to the table, but also recognizable keywords, where the Materia Prima might have cool individual images, but at the end of the day, every card is an element with a figure and balls and some kind of fabric on a background. First up, we have 1 point for the Supra, 0 points for the Materia Prima. All right, fighters, round 2, theme. Let's begin things off with the Supra Oracle. Now, the Supra Oracle, as described by its creator, UUSI, is, Gnostic ideas or Gnostic mysticism mixed with Jungian philosophy. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. It's something in that realm. It's kind of philosophy meets mysticism, which is super cool, and I think on many axes hits it hard. But let's talk about the cards that don't quite hit it first. Here we have things like Impasse, Transformation, Stillness, Forgotten, Simplicity, Conflict, Release, Moon, and Gentleness. These feel like any Oracle cards that you would see in any old deck. They don't feel super unique. There are some very, very cool ones like Stillness and Simplicity that I really appreciate having in an Oracle deck, but they don't lend exactly to the theme at hand. However, This deck is just chock-a-block full of cards that remind me of psychology and mysticism, like ego, oracle, individuation, mysticism, psyche, anima, unconscious, gnosis, imagination, and animus. All of these cards feel unique, distinct, and like they wouldn't fit in any other deck out there. I think these lend towards a very strong theme within the deck itself. The Materia Prima, on the other hand, is literally on theme all the time. If you're not familiar with what the Materia Prima is doing, it is the periodic table of elements. Here we have each element listed on the card with its atomic number. Lithium at 3, molybdenum at 42, hafnium at 72, silver at 47. Every single card will be an element from the periodic table, nothing more, nothing less. Extra cool thing, which we might do at a later time, you can actually lay out the entire periodic table of elements with this deck, and they all connect together. If you see a circle going off the edge, that means that it lines up with a circle on the card above it on the periodic table, or to the left of it, or to the bottom, wherever it's going off. That is freaking amazing. Who gets the juice for round 2 theme? Well, that would have to be the Materia Prima. Literally every element of the Materia Prima is always on theme, where the Supra tends to kind of waffle and waver quite a bit. Supra and Materia Prima, 1-to-1. Round 3, art. Beginning things off with the Supra Oracle, we have beautiful black penwork on a kind of sepia tone background. Is every image amazing? No. AKA manifestation. I think this card is lazy and really doesn't fit the quality of the rest of the deck. Most of it, though, is this gorgeous, intricate hatching. It looks like beautiful images of old alchemical texts found and reproduced in this very modern deck. I think the compositions of these cards are beautiful, with things often peeking off to the side or jumping off the edge of the page, things sort of disappearing, or fully featured scenes that kind of draw your eye dynamically around with rich movement and line quality. I think almost every image fires on all cylinders in the Supra, except for maybe nothing. That's not really an image. But it does such a cool job of invoking this old, mysterious art. Now, I will fully admit, this is completely me having a preference here for my style of art, but I like the more kind of diverse, richly detailed, alchemical style art found in the Supra. Spoiler alert. Now, the Materia Prima is equally as lovingly crafted, and some might even say more lovingly crafted because each card lines up to another card. That level of detail and preparation is insanely impressive. I'm working on a deck right now called Pip War that does the same idea, where all the cards kind of line up and the images move from left to right on the cards adjacent to it. It is hard. It is not easy to do. You have to take like so many more things into consideration. So it certainly gets bonus points for that. And the individual images themselves are profoundly beautiful. There's all this intricate detail in the fabric. There are cool objects and themes within the cards, and clever use of the balls, like some of them being mirrors or outlines where some of them are solid, dense masses. Not everything's a winner though, Krypton. There are some very simplistic cards with some really janky geometry and anatomy in them, but that's just kind of an UUSI thing. They do an incredible job, but the bodies aren't always the most richly detailed, which I get. Bodies are hard as heck to make, so I can hardly fault them for that. However, I have to judge them harshly for a deck duel, so I will fault them for it. And there we are. I'm just going to flip through the rest of the cards just so we can see the full deck between all 3 categories. The juice for round 3 on art goes to the Supra Oracle, in no shock to any human being who just listened to me talk for the last few minutes. That means for the juice we have 2 points for the Supra Oracle, 1 point for Materia Prima, which means the Supra Oracle is a winner! All right. What does this mean for these decks? Am I going to throw the Materia Prima away? Am I going to launch it out to sea on a boat and shoot a flaming arrow at it and watch it go into the dark depths and waves? Absolutely not. The Materia Prima is a super cool deck, as is the Supra. The Supra just hits on more criteria for me than the Materia Prima does. Every time I pick the Supra up, I find myself intoxicated and fascinated by it. Where the Materia Prima, if I'm in the right mood, absolutely has the same kind of feeling. But if I'm not specifically in kind of a thinky, sciencey mood, tends to feel a little bit more flat and a little bit more boring. This has been the first of hopefully many deck duels, and I so hope you enjoyed. I had an insanely good time making this video. It was so much fun to make all the lights and the sounds and really kind of bump up the jams, bump it up with the excitement. If you enjoyed Deck Duel, let me know down below because I love to hear what decks you'd like me to do. On that note, if you're like, but Colin, I don't know what decks you have, keep an eye out because a deck collection update is a coming soon. It's a coming soon. Baby, it's a coming soon. I don't know why I left. We're not done yet. But now we are. Thank you for joining me. I will see you next time on Prism&Co. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.